So I'm going to talk and get right to the point. I want to talk to you about the CDC Eviction Moratorium. So let me just say this right off the bat. I am not an attorney. I didn't sleep in Holiday Inn Express last night, and I'm not trying to be an attorney. But I've been involved in real estate for 25 plus years. I've been involved in a lot of this stuff that we're talking about right now. And I'm just going to bring you out some data, some actual information that's going to show you that this crappy CDC eviction moratorium isn't as bad as you think.
Your source for profit. Hear what you need to know to succeed in today's real estate market.
Yes, it's been horrible for 18, 19 months, but there's a payoff down the road. If you're willing to roll up your sleeves and actually fight, you're going to have to fight for this. It's going to get dirty. It may end up being people drag you on Twitter or Facebook, or if you're even on social media. You're probably not even on social media. So spread this to people that you know who are landlords. This is actual, true information. I'm going to document everything. I'm going to show you what's going on. My phone's already beeping. I hope people are watching. And let's get to it right away. And I just want you to know, that this stuff is actual verifiable information. I'm going to show you right now. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go right to the CDC page. This is the information that the CDC has put out on their website. And I want you to follow along very specifically, very methodically, whatever, and look at what they're saying on these websites. So this is their main website, and here is a declaration form that people have to fill out in order to claim their protection from the CDC moratorium. And I'm going to get into that with you in a little bit. And then here is the actual order, which you can actually read. So both of these things are documents that you can actually pull up and read yourself. So the first thing I want to go through, the very first thing I want to go through is I want to go through the actual order. This is the order that Rachel Walensky signed, and there's some things I want to draw your attention to. It's a 19-page document filled with a bunch of crap that you may not understand. It's designed for you to be confused, but I've pulled out the nuggets that you have to focus on. So let's get to it. Ready? So it goes through. This is page 1. We're going to get down, and the first thing I want to stop at is what's called a covered person. So I want you to be able to read this yourself so you can see this. A covered person is any tenant, lessee, resident of a residential property who provides the landlord, the owner of a residential property, yada, 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 mumbo jumbo, mumbo jumbo. Look at number 1. The individual has used best efforts to obtain all available government assistance for rent or housing. So that means that your tenant just can't say, hey, I'm covered, I'm good, you can't evict me. No, there's some codicils. There's some things that they have to qualify for in order to be protected under the CDC eviction moratorium for however long it lasts. I'm pretty sure SCOTUS, Supreme Court's going to boot this thing pretty soon. But in the interim, even if SCOTUS doesn't boot it out, I'm going to show you some things and some tips and strategies that you can do for yourself. So as you look at this, it says they have to have been availing themselves of all governmental assistance for rent or housing. Number 2, the individual has either earned no more than $99,000 or $198,000 if tax filing jointly. Understand that. So if the person who's your tenant was making $99,000 or $200,000 filing jointly, this is where it's going to be. It's going to start getting in here to some information that you really need to hone in on. So if you did your due diligence when you rented the property, you probably have their social security number. You probably maybe have their tax returns and their financials. You need to compare this stuff. You need to look at this and go, what did I get from them when they leased the property? You see where this is going? You're going to start building your case. Now you're going to begin fighting back. But let's continue. So further down here on page number 3, this is really important, really important. The individual, the tenant, is using best efforts to make timely partial rent payments that are as close to the full rent amount as the individual's circumstances may permit. Now understand that. It takes into here, non-discretionary expenses, but they had to have been making an effort, best efforts, to begin making partial payments, if not the full, and partial payments as close to the full amount. So if you've gone for 7 or 8 or 10 months and the person hasn't made any payments and they haven't tried to give you any money, they're not covered. Sure, you're going to have some rental advocates try to make a statement about it, but understand you're going to fight back. You better have the receipt showing they did not attempt in any way, shape, or form to make partial payments in the last 6, 7, 8, 9 months, whatever it's been. It's clear as day. The individual must be making timely partial rent payments that are as close to the full rent payment as the circumstances permit. I didn't write that. That's written in the order. That's written in the order. Bet you didn't hear that before. Bet you could look all over Twitter. Bet you could look at every newspaper article, and no one has told you that they, in order to qualify for being protected under the CDC Eviction Moratorium, that they had to have been making partial, timely payments. Not just partial, timely. This is a legal document. It says it. Look at it again. The best efforts. The individual is using their best efforts to make timely partial rent payments. So if you're not getting anything and it hasn't been timely, you have a way to go back and say this person's not covered and keep going with your eviction. Yeah, that's what it says. So let's go down further, and as we go through this entire document, let's look at next clause I want to bring your attention to. And understand, there's a lot of stuff in here. A lot of stuff in here that's mumbo-jumbo stuff that it's just meant to confuse you. Just skip ahead to the stuff that actually makes sense and actually matters. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to go down here and we're going to look at a couple things that are specific to a landlord. And I'm scrolling and scrolling because I'm on page like 15 now, and it's a bunch of junk. And I'm just going to keep going until I get to the highlighted page. All right, so here's the next one. This order, again, I didn't write this. This is the document that the CDC put out. You need to read this. This is very important. This order is a temporary eviction moratorium to prevent the further spread of COVID, blah, blah, blah. This order does not relieve any individual of any obligation to pay rent, make a housing payment, or comply with other obligations in terms of financial as well. Nothing in this order precludes you as the landlord charging or collecting of fees, penalties, interest as a result of them not paying rent or other non-payment of rent or timely agreements, whatever. Are you understanding what this means? Let's say your tenant has not paid for 6 months, 7 months, 8 months. They now owe you, let's say the rent was $1,000 a month. They now owe you $8,000, $9,000, $10,000. How are they going to pay that? They're not. They're probably not. They think they're fine. They think they can just stay there and, until this thing expires, and they think that they're not going to be evicted. And then when this thing expires or the Supreme Court kicks it out, they're going to say to themselves, all right, so we'll move now. Wait 1 second, Mr. Landlord, you still have the cards here. They owe you $10,000. That's $10,000. So what do? You take that debt back to the court. You get a judgment against the tenant after they've been evicted, whatever it is. You now can go back and you can garnish their wages. You can find out whatever they're doing, and you can attach a car, attach any kind of personal property. It's a pain in the butt, but if you want to get dirty, and actually it's not dirty, if you just want to fight, here's your way of fighting. This does not waive them of what they owe you. They owe you that money. It's not going away. The CDC is not wiping the debt. Nobody can wipe that debt. It's not going to happen. The tenants don't understand this. In fact, this may be a carrot you can tell a tenant. Most good people don't want to lay around and have a debt hanging over their head. You can go to them and say, listen, if you move out, I will agree not to sue you and chase you down and garnish your wages and take your property. Wow. Does that sound tough? Yeah, hell yeah, it's tough. But it's a wake-up call. I don't think many people plan on being in a position for years and years. They plan on getting back on their feet and going forward. I'm sure you didn't rent to someone that you didn't vet. They may be going through a bad situation. Not everyone's taking advantage of this, but now you can say to them, hey, have you seen this page? This page here tells me I can go ahead and continue to charge interest and penalties and fees. You're going to owe me 10, 12, 15 grand. You're going to owe me attorney's fees. By the time my attorney's done, you may owe $20,000. I'm going to come after you for every freaking cent. Unless we make an agreement here, unless you agree to vacate the property. You see, the CDC moratorium does not protect them of back outstanding debt. It protects them from being evicted. It doesn't protect them, and it doesn't absolve them from having the debt. That's a big thing that most landlords don't know because they haven't read through this thing. That debt could be what gets you your property back. But, let's continue looking at this thing. A lot of people haven't seen it, but there's another clause here. Even if they are protected, they can be evicted for engaging in criminal activity while on the premises. But persons covered may not be evicted on a sole basis that they are alleged to have committed crime of trespass. So what's that mean? Watch them. Watch them closely. Make sure you know if they've committed a crime. There's a lot of things that they can do wherein they commit a crime, they're no longer covered. And I'm going to show you one of those huge crimes that a lot of them are doing that nobody's talking about. So this is the agreement. You can go to the website. You can take a look at it yourself. It's 19 pages of crap. And then this is probably the most important part of the entire document. They actually have to file. They just can't say, hey, we're covered and everything's fine. Bet you didn't know that. They actually have to give you a document that says we're covered by the CDC. They just can't rely on being covered. You can't just sit back and go, wow, they're covered, I can't touch them. Nope, you can go after them. You can definitely go after them. And I encourage you to continue with the eviction. You see, the thing what most people don't know, you can file, you can get that entire process done, but you can't actually get the writ of possession to execute with the sheriff until this whole CDC thing is done. But again, file, go through the entire process, and then just wait. But in the interim, you're going to, one, if they raise the defense of the CDC declaration, make sure they actually presented it to you. Two, keep the meter running. Understand that debt accumulation is going to be something huge for you. You're going to be able to collect on the debt, and it's a cudgel that you can use to get people, influence them to get out of your property. So let's continue here. So, it just goes through here and it says that they actually have to sign a document. They just can't say we're covered and then just, do nothing. It doesn't work that way. So we're going to go through here and I'm going to go to the bottom. And it says, this order shall be enforced by federal authorities and cooperating state and local authorities through the provisions of yada, yada, yada. However, this order has no effect on the contractual obligations of renters to pay rent and shall not preclude charging of or collecting of fees, penalties, or interest as a result to not paying their rent. So you're understanding here, there's two things you need to grasp from this. One, and this is really important, is that this is going to be enforced by federal and state and local authorities on your behalf as well. So what that also means is, hey, listen, I was just told by the CDC in this document that I can go ahead and go after John Smith for all of the back rent, interest, penalties, lawyer's fees if it's in your lease. And I want a judgment against John Smith for $20,000. The court shall enforce this. It says it right there. This order shall be enforced by federal authorities and cooperating state and local authorities. It couldn't be clearer. Understand, keep the meter running. Make sure if they've made timely payments, they have to qualify for this thing. Now I'm going to show you, we're going to go through here, and I'm going to show you something that's pretty important. I'm going to look at the document that they actually have to file. So this is the document that they actually have to file and give you, or a reasonably facsimile thereof. This is something that, they could write by hand or something, but this is a document. And this document goes through and it talks to them about what they need to do to qualify. So, do I qualify under the CDC Eviction Moratorium? Well, they have to have at least one box in each column to qualify. And so it says I either received a stimulus check, I was not required to report any income, which means they probably weren't someone you rented to. If somebody was not required to report income, you probably didn't give them a lease. I'm receiving any of these following benefits if they're on Social Security, if they're on disability, if they're on SNAP. You have to wonder, did you know that when you rented to them? Anyway, and then it says their income. They're stating that they're not making this much income. Then column B comes into it. I cannot pay my full rent or make a full housing payment because my income has gone down. I've been laid off, yada, 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 which may be true. None of the above. If you don't check one of those, you don't qualify. So you got to know real quick, is your tenant full of shit or do they really qualify? Because here's where it gets really interesting. Number 2 declaration they have to make is I have done my best. I have done my best to make partial, timely payments as close as possible to the full payment and to get government assistance in making my rent or housing payments. Understand what that says. Read that. I've done my best to make timely, partial payments that are as close as possible to the full payment and to get government assistance in making my rent or housing payments. Did they pay you? Have they given you partial payment? Over the 6 or 7 or 5 or whatever number of months, have you received partial payment? If they say they're covered by the CDC moratorium, if they say that they're protected by the CDC eviction moratorium, they had to tell the CDC that they've been making. Okay? Let's look at that again. I have done my best to make timely partial payments that are as close as possible to the full payment. I've done my best. If they haven't made any, they haven't done their best. Because if you rent it to them, they're probably not completely destitute and they haven't made any payments. Okay, now here's where it gets really good. Unless I come to an agreement with my landlord, I am still responsible for rent, back rent, and any fees, penalties, or interest under my lease, and they have to check the box. They are declaring to the world, to the CDC, that, I'm still responsible for all this money. Did you know that? Did you know that going into it? They're still going to be responsible for every single dime that they owe you? Have you seen that on any newscast? Have you seen that on any newspaper? Did you know until right now that they have to pay you every single dime that you're owed? Now, why do they have to do that, Barry? What do you mean? They haven't paid me for 9 months, 6 months, 4 months. How am I going to get the money from them? Well, there's one big, huge way you're going to get money. Because if they've used this CDC declaration to not pay you, look at the next paragraph. I sign this declaration under penalty of perjury. That means I promise that the statements above are true and that I understand I can be criminally punished for lying. Did you read that? You want to see it again? No one's talked about that, have they? You haven't seen that before, have you? Let me show it to you again. I sign this declaration under penalty of perjury. That means I promise that the statements herein are true. And I understand that I can be criminally punished for lying. I've been on here for about 20 minutes, and I probably told you some stuff you didn't even know. You have a document they're putting in your hands, and I bet you didn't know that they're still liable for all the money that was owed to you, and you can chase them down with the judgment. Depending on what state you are, Florida, you have to get a certified judgment. You can garnish their wages in the future. You have 10 years. You have 10 years to collect $20,000 or so from Mr. Smith. Chase him down. Or you can let him know you can move and I'll rip this up. One way or the other. Or you can sell that judgment. I buy judgments. You can sell that judgment. Imagine that. Imagine making money on the judgment, taking a payment from a third party and let them go ahead and sue. Yeah, you can do that too. But most of all, and I do mean most of all, there's the thing that's going to scare the crap out of people who are full of shit. Under penalty of perjury, I promise that the statements above are the truth and that I understand I can be criminally punished for lying. I don't think they understand that when they hand this document to you, they are screwing themselves and nobody's telling them. Shame on the CDC, shame on these housing authorities, shame on these activists for not telling these people that they're criminally liable if they, under false pretenses, try to get protected by the CDC. Yeah, and they'll try everything. They'll bring everybody into court to try and make sure that they're not put in jail. I'm not interested in putting somebody in jail. I know you're interested in get your property back. But if they criminally, fraudulently file this declaration, nail them to the wall. I'm just saying, you can do what you want. People on Twitter are probably going to scream at me for saying this, but this is actually on the documents. I'm not making it up. I'm not the one who wrote this. I'm not the one who published it. I'm not the one who's out there telling tenants, go ahead and give this to landlords and you never have to pay. I didn't do that. I'm just showing you the information. I'm just showing you what's actually going on right now. And you have the ability to do something about it. Will you? Will you do something about it? Well, that's it. I've been going for longer than I thought I'd be going. I don't even know if this thing worked. Maybe it did. Maybe it didn't. My name is Barry Cunningham. Go ahead and leave me a comment. I'm sure I'll get flamed from some people who see this, but I hope this helps you. And, with everything else, understand that you do have weapons. Fight back. Don't take it lying down. Fight back. That's all I got for today. Talk to you soon.